Welcome to the Develop Yourself podcast, where we teach you everything you need to land your first job as a software developer by learning to develop yourself, your skills, your network, and more. I'm Brian, your host. I've been lucky enough to interview some really amazing people on this podcast. In the episode you're about to listen to with Aaron Cordova, who shares how he went from an NYC transit worker, a rapper, to working at some of the largest companies in tech, is amazing. It's not just amazing because he got a bunch of money or because he made this massive change in life to work in tech. That's part of the story, and that's interesting. I think what's a lot more interesting is the passion that Aaron has for this. He's not selling anything, by the way. He reached out to me because he wanted to share this story because he knows it will help others that are trying to transition, change their lives, find opportunity when it feels like you have none. It's a truly incredible story, and I hope you get a lot out of it. And he and I are going to work to bring this story to even more people. So if you think that somebody you know could benefit from listening to this, please share it with them. I can't wait to have him for a larger event, which we're planning to put together, which I'm going to host outside of the podcast to make it live, to make it interactive, so more people can benefit from this story. Without further ado, let's listen to Aaron's story. Today, I have a special guest, Aaron Cordova, rapper, keyboard tapper, went from a track worker on the New York Transit to a software engineer at some of the biggest companies that you've heard of, including Meta, Bloomberg, Coinbase, and Docker. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, sir. Good to be here.
Really excited to chat with you, man. I've heard a lot about your story. You reached out to me. I know you've been on this podcast actually in the past, and you have an incredible story. And I want to chat with you about getting into tech, what it's like working at some of these massive companies, and what you learned along this journey. But before we start with any of that, I got to ask you about your rap history.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh man, how do I even get into that? To me, that was like a call of God. Culturally, that's what I resonated with from a young kid, like a lot of people. So I was always into like the music, just listening, the culture and all the stuff that comes along with it. I have a little bit of a colorful history. I do not want to rabbit trail. But I don't know if you remember back in like the 90s, the Zulu Nation.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I was a part of Zulu Nation back then.
Okay.
So I found myself in there, and that was like the mid to later 90s. So on the East Coast, this was like at the beginning, let's say, of like Bloods and Crips era. You know, I'm sure on the West Coast, that whole scene was already live and,
for sure.
But on the East Coast, at least when I was young, the main, I guess, three were like Zulu, Latin Kings, and Nietas. So in any case, I had people in all three. So coming from a pretty, I guess, broken background with the family and stuff like that, I found a lot of identity, on the streets and whatnot, and just the hip hop culture is saturated and all of that. Cool.
Yeah.
But in the late 90s, in 97, I had like a God moment, and life just completely changed, right? So a bunch of stuff changed overnight for the better. My mouth cleaned up. I pretty much tried to stop smoking, nice. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
Ladies were a little bit harder, to iron out. But in any case, I was already rapping at that point.
All right.
I was already freestyling, banging on garbage cans, making beats, ciphers, breaking
like
out.
What I imagine when I imagine New York rap. Okay. That's cool.
Dude.
Right on.
It was great. I had a radio. I mean, I heard a number of radios, but this one big boom. Actually, is she up here? Nah, she's not here. Anyway, I think she's in the basement. But her name is Marquise. Huge old school Lasonic.
Okay.
Yeah, I would literally carry it with me everywhere. I mean, even I never finished college, but I went to a community college my second and third semester.
Okay.
If I remember correctly.
Trying to get into studio engineering?
No, that was just regular college. I've done a number of things like education wise, but that I could ride my bike to. That radio came with me on the bike to class. I would rap everywhere and anywhere that there were eardrums, willing to listen. And then eventually, it was just almost every Friday night going straight to Manhattan, Times Square, Greenwich Village, 14th Street, Union Square, like a lot. Yeah, and the trains to and fro.
Oh yeah, right.
Or wherever we go play ball. So I'm going to the Bronx, Brooklyn, like every major hood in the New York City landscape. You name it, I was there with a radio rapping until most nights until the sun came up. Really cool times.
Yeah,
so
for real.
Anyway, I say all of that colorful stuff to hopefully land on the listener that the identity, my relationship with the music was more than, the clothing or just Jay-Z's latest album or something like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like
you're really like living it.
Yeah. I wanted to change the world through music. And so I traveled a decent bit, never made any money off of it,
Okay.
And that didn't happen. It didn't pan out the way I wanted to. I had a wild time, great time. I wouldn't change anything. But around the end of 2014, 2015 is when the transition from music went into tech. And that was because of some dude from Coney Island I knew back then who went through a boot camp. I don't remember the program he did, but I think it was like he got some scholarship or whatever, a grant for minorities to do it. And at that point, I was familiar with like maybe CSS, WordPress, Starving Artist is Real. So all of those things that you got to cobble together for yourself because you want a website.
That's right.
You want to be able to hand out a business card and like, here's the .com or something and just cobbling stuff together. So I was resourceful on that end. But he's like, for all intents and purposes, just a hood rat friend of mine, who on the outside you would not associate with coding. And he was my inspiration. He's the one who told me what a boot camp was. And
that's
so,
nuts.
so we can get into that, but that was the history with the hip hop.
Wow.
I thought that was what I was going to do for life.
That is really cool. Cause I knew you were rapping and stuff. I'm like, okay, that's a lot of people though. Like, I'm from Oakland, California. Like half of the people I grew up with rap. My brother is a rapper.
Yep.
As we spoke about earlier. But
and I followed his stuff. I've watched plenty of his battles. That scene I'm familiar with. So
that was it's such a cool thing. I don't usually share that with a lot of people because usually in tech it's one of those things that people wouldn't know what to, so
it falls on deaf ears.
Yeah,
but
right.
Man, I lit up. I was like, what?
Yeah, that was really cool. That was really cool to share with somebody that actually knows what I'm talking about. So this passion, did you at some point say, okay, like practically, I got to make a living. I got to make a living in New York. How am I going to do this? This person shows you how to code. And then what? Then you say, okay, I'm in. I'm doing this thing.
Yeah. So let me fill in some blanks too. It's not like I went from, my mother's basement doing music to coding.
Okay.
In between, a lot of life changes happen. I mean, I'm condensing the story, but by the time I meet this fork in the road where I realize that music, I can't rely on this thing, and basically my destiny's in my own hands. I could keep doing music. I could have continued to scratch those cliche itches of follow your dreams.
For sure.
Things like that. And I'm not knocking anybody who wants to. In fact, I think there is some validity in following your dreams. But I felt like a slave to my dream. And my dream was beginning to turn into a nightmare because by that point in 2014, I had two young children.
Oh, yep. That'll do it.
How old were they? 1 and 3, 2 on the cusp of 2 and 4.
Yeah.
My wife was a stay-at-home mom, and we tried to organize our life to keep it that way. Right? She used to be a hairdresser, but once we had the kids, we both wanted that lifestyle.
Okay.
And so I'm the sole breadwinner, and I got a mortgage. Like, now what?
Yeah, right.
I don't want to be irresponsible by quote unquote chasing a dream because I got mouths to feed, but I don't really know anything else. I work for transit at this point. I got the job at transit, I want to say in 05. In 05. So I'm about a decade in. Pension, city job.
Yeah, those are good jobs, right? Like people look at those jobs
Yes.
as like those are coveted, good, strong jobs to have. Pensions, like you said, union probably really strong, good
Union,
pay.
all the things
Yeah,
that come, the stability, general
for sure.
stability with that. Now nobody's getting rich over there, but you can make a living for yourself.
Yeah.
But this was not good enough for me. Surviving
Mm-hmm.
was never the point for me, and when I hit the brick wall of the reality that I'm surviving, it disturbed me to my core. I did not like that. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you like I'm some sort of natural born entrepreneur and I got this type of thing in my blood.
Mm-hmm.
No, but I will tell you that I want to be a kid in a candy store. I want to have fun. I want to explore,
Yeah.
right? I do not want to live in a prison cell. And even if you make the prison cell larger, that's not good enough for me. You know
I
what I'm
feel you on
saying?
that.
That's not what I'm
Yeah.
looking for. And so transit represented that. It became that prison. It was paying the bills
Mm-hmm.
and it was a mindless job, right? So the
Okay.
real estate of my mind, I had a lot of available bandwidth. So I'm always writing. I got
Okay.
lines for days. I even
Yeah.
drove trucks for transit for a little bit, track the trailers for the track department. And we would haul like, rails out to job sites and stuff like that. And I'd be sitting in the rig and I had a portable just studio with me. I had a
Okay.
small little M audio keyboard with
Uh-huh.
the drum pads.
Oh yeah.
I had my laptop, a cheap $250 laptop from like Best Buy, headphones. I'm like, I am not going to be sitting in this truck doing nothing all day, So that's why I've been banging out beats. Come Friday, we
Dang.
going to the city, you
Yeah.
know. But in any case, yeah, that 2014, 2015 is when I had like this existential crisis, and I asked myself, can I see myself doing what I'm doing for the next 20 years,
Mm-hmm.
which was what it required to get to that finish line. The finish line being a pension, being able to retire, fill in the blanks.
That's right.
And when I asked myself that question, honestly, the answer was no. No, I can't. And I do want to clarify something. I completely understand that life comes in seasons, right? Uh, just like the weather, it's hot in the summer and it's
Mm-hmm.
cold in the winter. And if you wait out the winter long enough, you eventually get to the spring and back to summer again, right? And so there's things that are cyclical, and they come in seasons. That was so I was open to the fact that maybe I'm just in a quote unquote down season.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're objective enough, and especially if you don't need a lot, but if you have a handful of people that know you well, and that care about you, then you can gauge their opinion as well. This was not a season for me. This was a substantial change. A season, the pendulum goes down and then it comes right back up.
That's right.
It went down and that's it.
It just
Like
stayed
this
there.
ain't the roller coaster. Yeah, this was a fundamental change. So
Okay.
to me, when I was asking myself, can I do this for the next 20 years? This was saying, hey, are you okay with this path? Not the season. The season I could deal with the weather,
Mm-hmm.
or the temporary down cycle. But am I okay with this path? And I was like, no, to my core, absolutely not. It just so happened that at the same time was the conversation with my tech buddy that I mentioned earlier, who he wasn't even a tech
Perfect
buddy.
timing.
He was just a dude that
Just some
I
dude you
rhymed
knew.
with.
Okay.
Yeah, we were good friends. We got on a couple of tracks together. We've done some stuff, and he's the one who put me on to what a boot camp was, and it seemed exciting. So, that's where the fork in the road was for all of that.
Wow.
I mean, I
That's a
could go into the journey too about that might be helpful for some of the listeners, I guess. But like weighing that, weighing those pros and cons, and just making that choice for a boot
Yeah.
camp.
I would definitely like to hear that, because I think that's a thing people are apprehensive about doing now. Like the idea of investing in yourself. I hear all the times, I could just learn all this for free, or I'm going to take some other route. They don't believe it can work, or they're just not all in. So how did you decide, with all these pressures on you as a family man with a stable job, to say, I'm going to
Yep.
take the time to invest in myself?
Yeah. Please try to imagine that for the listener. Try to imagine being in the position, and I'm sure everybody's got their own tough position too, right? But my position was two young children, 1 and 3 years old, on the cusp of 2 and 4, a stay-at-home wife, and a mortgage. And I was in debt. I was just swamped in debt, right? And so debt is like the multiplication sign, but only for bad things. So like the more debt you have, anything that's bad in your life just gets multiplied that much more. It's that much more sour. Your relationships are that much harder. You know, like that's just what a lack of money
Yeah, for
does.
real.
Oh man. So, but that was the position I was in. So I definitely had a lot of pressure, and I didn't want to be irresponsible for myself, but not for my family, because I'm playing ball for the team. I'm not just playing ball for me. If it was just for me, if I was single, I probably would have kept going.
Yeah.
Who knows? But anyway, so he told me about what a boot camp was. Never heard of it. And I'm at a personal existential crisis. Not everybody who faces a fork in the road, and not every fork in the road needs to be that severe. This one just happened to be, right? So I'm just setting the stage there.
Mm-hmm.
He tells me what a boot camp is. I look into it. And at the time, there were like some top schools or top names in the boot camp industry, because it was kind of new. It was
like
a
Hack
newer
Reactor,
thing.
General Assembly, App
General
Academy.
Assembly.
Yeah.
Yep. And I think the other one that he went to, did he go to that? Was Flatiron.
Flatiron. Yep.
And he got a I didn't know it at the time actually, but later on I found out that he basically got a free ride for there was like some program for minorities. So so I don't even think he fully went down the coding route. The irony of all of this, right? But because of him doing that, it set me off. So anyway, so I did my research, and I told you that I felt like hip hop was like a call of God. So this wasn't just the love of my life, which it was. It was also like my civic duty. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't know what words to describe the strings that are pulled from a man's soul. Like, what man am I if I don't answer this call to battle? You know what I'm saying? Or that over my dead body type of feeling. Like that was me in hip hop. It was both a love. This was my warfare. This was my identity, and all of that jazz. So this was a really tough decision. It was almost like sacrificing a child or something. And so I did the best that I could with what I had at the time.
Okay.
And I tried to give myself the clearest space to make rational decisions. Because it was nerve-wracking. I don't know. I want to say nerve-wracking, but it was a big deal. That's what I'm trying to paint.
Of course, yeah. Life change, career change, identity change.
You know what I'm saying? So like there was a lot. So I prayed. I did a handful of things. I prayed, I researched, and I physically wrote things down so that my eyeballs could see the pros and cons. I can't tell you how many times that I put things on paper so that I can see it. Hearing it is one thing, which is also good. And seeing it adds another dynamic value, right? And then I shut out a lot of noise in my life. And I kept my inner circle small during that time of trying to figure things out. and I did rely on some close friends, like maybe 1 or 2 friends who knew me well just so I could bounce things off of, because I wanted to be as objective as possible.
Sure.
But I'll never forget it. So as time is going on, I'm looking up what a boot camp is. There's different curriculums. I've never heard of half of this jargon. What is full stack? What is a stack, and why is it full?
What's front end? What's back end? Yeah. What's
Front end, back
what is
end.
all this?
I didn't know. I knew HTML. I knew CSS. I knew what JavaScript was. Like, I heard the name, and I knew that it was a language, and I had looked at it before, and I'm like, Chinese. I don't know what
Right.
that is.
Yeah.
Beyond my pay grade. Never heard of Ruby, and just a slew of names.
Yeah.
So I educated myself on that as best as I could. And it looked like the needle was pointing towards, all right, we're going to do this. This is what we're going to do. For me, not like I'm trying to put God to the test or anything like that. But everybody's got their principles. And one of my principles is I am not going to do something without my wife. Or being on the same page is what I mean.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And so we had been having this open conversation and kind of educating ourselves together, right? But I remember one morning, it must have been like stupid early, 5:15, got my coffee, and I'm sitting there just like kind of having a conversation with God and looking over notes and researching still. Mm-hmm. And I'm basically coming up to the point where you got to make a decision.
Yeah, right. Are you going to do this?
And so I said, you know what? I'm pretty sure my wife, her name is Lisa. I'm pretty sure Lisa's on the same page with me. But here's what I'm going to do. When she wakes up and she comes down the stairs, I'm going to ask her, if you knew that there was no plan B and I took this risk to try to go learn the code and there was no going back, would you still do it? Now, I had a hunch. We were on the same page. Like, it looks like this is an opportunity. Like, maybe we should do this. I should leave transit and go learn the code. Bro, she comes down the stairs.
Yeah.
I pop the question. Her words exactly. Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. When she said that, I knew that I had come to the end of my discovering journey, and now it was time to execute. And so at that point, I was like, I'm all in. I'm all in. And so I told you my buddy, he was at Flatiron.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, my research was showing me, like, my options are probably between Flatiron and General Assembly. So I was like, let's go with Flatiron. He was doing that. Let me do that.
Sure.
Well, their program didn't start for another, like, I don't know what it was, like 6 weeks or whatever.
Yeah.
4 weeks. And I was like, man,
I want this.
I need to strike while the iron's hot. Oh, yeah.
Right.
We're not waiting for that. General Assembly was like, well, we've got this thing in a week and a half. And so I was like, done. In retrospect, I'm glad, because Flatiron had a Ruby-based course.
That was huge back then, yeah.
It was. And it quickly faded out.
Yeah, it's funny how
and
that
I don't
worked,
mean the language. Yeah. Like Ruby as a language is still around. But, back then there were a lot of Rails, like Ruby on Rails shops. Yeah. But I'm so glad I was one of the first cohorts in General Assembly that stuck to an all JavaScript course. And I'm so glad for that, because I'm a JavaScript dev through and through, front to back. I have no interest in other stuff. I've written a little bit of Python, sure, whatever. Maybe one of these days I'll get around to like tapping Rust on the shoulder because all the cool kids are playing with it.
I think in the same way. It's really funny. Yeah.
It panned out. So I enrolled, and I've never looked back, man. And I've never been happier. And I kept telling myself, because it was not easy for a boot camp, to do a boot camp.
Were you working at the same time too?
No, hell no.
Oh, so you say, I'm done. I'm just all in on this.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So I took an unpaid leave of absence from the city, from my job, from transit.
Okay. Yeah.
And I figured out, it was a big sacrifice, but I figured out how to just do the next 12 weeks. And I had budget for like exactly the 12 weeks,
Holy moly. All right.
between the mortgage and between
Kids.
the yeah, and what it took to the how much to pay for the boot camp. So like that was it. That's it. You know what I'm saying?
There's
Like
no
there's
turning back. Yeah, right.
no turning back now.
Yeah, it's got to work.
And I had a blast. So it obviously it worked out.
It worked out really
And
well. Yeah.
it worked out quite well. Yeah, yeah. So
Holy dude,
I don't know
that's
where you want
a
to
yeah.
take
That's
it from
a
there.
it's a hell of a story because it's so good that you kind of have hit a lot of the things I was curious about. But one
Mm,
thing that I guess I was interested in is the fact that you had support from your wife. Now, what about all the other people that knew you? Like, what did your
yeah.
what did other people think when you say, "Hey, I'm going to go from being a track worker to a software engineer"? Was everybody so like in your corner?
Um, no, but I'm also not going to sit here and say like I had this, you know, I don't know, battle of Helm's Deep opposition
Yeah,
either.
gotcha,
It's not
gotcha.
that, but I did have plenty of cliche voices that were saying, you know, the city, like you got benefits,
Yeah,
you got
right.
this, that, and the
Pension.
third.
Yeah.
But let me tell you something, and please don't think that this is like just survivors bias.
Hmm.
My whole life, I've taken risks. This at the moment, at that time, this was one of the biggest risks. My personality lends me towards taking risks.
Hmm.
Going into bad neighborhoods and rapping is not without risk.
Yeah,
I
right.
don't know what to say.
Yeah, for real.
And to me, that was like a kid in a candy store. I was having a hell of a time. I got stories on deck for days. I remember getting surrounded, and by the end of that episode, we start rapping, and like everybody's giving pounds, respect. You know, so going from like life or death
Threatening
situations,
situations to like, oh, can
yeah,
I Yeah, I totally
yeah,
feel you on that one. I have a bit of a shady past myself, and I think that
mm,
actually helped me out a lot because I thought, what's the worst that could happen? Would I fail? Like, okay, then I'm kind of back where I started from. But if I win, then I've just won an entirely new life, which
yeah.
leads me
There's
to this new life that you kind of started having because you didn't just graduate from General Assembly and go on to write code, which is an amazing story in itself. You went on to the biggest companies in the world. I
mhm.
really want to know what that was like. You learned to code. Now, how did you end up at Meta?
Yeah. So I'll tell you the journey. So I just want to finish a point on risk.
For
Like
sure.
nothing valuable is cheap. That's just life. So whether
Yeah.
that's you know what your products that you're purchasing, like 9 times out of 10, you get what you pay for,
Hmm.
um, or endeavors that you go on. Like if it doesn't cost you much, you're you know what you sow is what you reap. You're almost guaranteed to not. If it didn't cost you something, you're not going to reap something that valuable. But if it costs you something, and I'm not just talking about the money, like it cost me the risk of investing in myself. You mentioned that phrase earlier,
That's right.
investing in yourself. I had one person ever tell me that, and I don't remember exactly what the circumstance was. But like you never fail when you invest in yourself. And it didn't click back then. I totally get it now. Whether
Yeah.
that's invest in yourself for coaching, invest in your own health, um, it pays dividends. So anyway, so obviously you know the story, but so I took that was a big risk and it paid off. And it wasn't as if I had any guarantees, right? It's fun to read a book when you know what the end of the movie is because
Yeah.
you have the luxury of no danger,
Yep.
right? I didn't have the luxury of no danger then. And so going through a boot camp was an emotional roller coaster. When it was going well, I felt like on top of the world. When I hit a bug and I couldn't understand this, or I had no idea what they're talking about, I have no context for this stuff. It was really difficult. I'm questioning all my life choices. Am I a fool? Did I make the wrong decision? And everything else. I thinking of irrational thoughts like punting
Hmm.
baby seals, punching a hole in the wall. You know, but I'm very passionate. So my highs are very high, my lows are very low. Other people might be a lot more even keel. But I'll tell you this to set up into the like how I got to Meta.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I did not invent anything new. I discovered a playing field and the pieces on the board, and I just played with them. I hope the listener is listening. I didn't do anything unique. I didn't do anything novel. I simply entered the playing field, looked around, and figured out how to play the game. Okay. And when I say how to play the game, I don't necessarily mean like game the system and get over. I mean, what is this new world?
Yep. What is this
What
game?
are the rules?
Yeah.
What is the game? What is possible? What are the possibilities? All right. This is where hip hop just completely, I cashed in on all of that, those times in the street when you're freestyling, when you're in front of a big crowd, when you're constantly seeing new faces, when you're interacting with opposition, like all of these things that in hip hop terms, you'd be like, oh yeah, you were battling on the street. You almost got into a fight over there. Like maybe that's what you're seeing if you see it as like a movie scene or from the outside. But look at the skills that are at play. There are people skills. There are communication skills.
Yeah, right.
There are survival skills. You got to think on the spot. You got to analyze where you're at, who are the people around, what you can do, what you can't do. So all of that came into play. And I cannot believe what dividends that paid off. So now I'm in this nerd world, right?
Yeah.
I'm learning. I'll show you the first gold nugget that I got. Take advantage of the opportunities that are in front of you. So one of the opportunities while I was in General Assembly was we took a field trip one day to a company. They set up a meet and greet with a company called Razorfish. Razorfish was like a tech agency.
Okay.
You know, so if you worked for them, you're an employee and whatnot, but you might be working on, I don't know, an IBM project for a couple months or whatever. And then next thing you know, they're working on, I don't know, some advertising agencies, blah, blah, blah. So you get a chance to work on multiple projects. So I'm there and I'm like, oh man, I want to work here. Like, look at these people. It looks cool. The colors are cool. Like they're making money. They're doing different projects. So what did I do? They had a panel of speakers. So I networked. That's all I did. All I did was ask the guy. I gave him the floor to talk a little bit about himself, and I asked for his card later. That was, boot camps are usually about a 3-month. That was halfway through.
Okay.
So that was about a month and a half. A month later, I'm almost at the end of my role. Or maybe that was the first month in, whatever. But towards the end of my time at General Assembly, I'm working on my final project.
Yep.
I'm already seeing I need a job when I leave here. Why am I going to wait? So I pick up the phone.
Yeah.
I call homeboy. Guess what that resulted in? An interview. And the fact that I had an interview gave me confidence, and I could walk around town a little bit more bolstered and emboldened, looking for more interviews. So I didn't have one. I got 2 interviews, the only person in my entire cohort that I had 2 interviews during finals week while I'm coding a project. I literally had to leave General Assembly to go out to an interview. Everybody's happy for me in the class. And everybody's like eyeballs, like, this is what we've been waiting for.
Yeah.
You know, this is what we're training for. Like, how did it go? What was it like? So I interviewed at Razorfish, and I interviewed at, I was able to garnish an interview at Accenture, a company called Accenture.
Yeah.
Bro, I had no idea who the heck Accenture was. Turns out it's like a
huge,
giant,
massive
global company.
Yeah.
All right. So just hustling and taking advantage, networking of the things that were given to me. Again, I did not do anything
like novel. You didn't send a box of donuts
nothing.
Or like make a worldwide best-selling app or write a novel that took off. You know, you just did the thing.
So I was able to catch those interviews, and Razorfish wanted me, but they ended up dragging their feet, and it dragged on beyond school, and it was to my advantage because I ended up taking the job with Accenture, which was my first job. I was able to use and leverage the fact that I had another company on the line to bump up the salary a little bit more.
So you negotiated too.
I negotiated.
Very
Um,
smart.
and I got multiple opportunities for myself, which gives you, it lets you operate from a place of confidence. You know what I'm saying? And then here's the other thing that I took with me throughout my career. I was able to find passion in coding almost the same way I found passion in music. Like I learned to love coding. I learned to enjoy the creativity and the superpowers that I
Hmm.
felt it gave me, right? So when I would go interview, I was not begging for a job, even though clearly I needed one, right?
Yeah.
But I was
Yeah.
not begging for a job. I was looking for somebody who was going to pay me to do what I love to do anyway. And I remember having the mentality, I'm going to do this whether you pay me or not. I can't stop coding. I'm making all these things on my laptop. I'm discovering new powers here. I'm developing new skills. I feel like, I don't know, like a Marvel superhero or something.
Yeah.
So I just need to find somebody who's going to slap a check on it.
Hmm.
But like the superhero stuff, I'm doing. So who wants to pay for it? I just got to find you. Um, and so that mentality and having a personality just completely set me apart in interviews.
Oh, I bet.
Um,
Because you're not coming in there begging or saying, "Oh, please, I'm a
no,
junior developer and I'm passionate and
yeah,
take a chance on
yeah,
me." That doesn't work
yeah.
well.
No, no. And the other thing is like I just, maybe it's because I'm from New York, or I think it was more the hip hop culture, but like you could just see through fakes.
For
Like
sure.
and you could see who's scared, and you could see like who's weird. It's like a jungle. You know when an animal is wounded, right? And so there's nothing attractive about a wounded animal or an animal that's starving, but there
Yeah.
is something very persuasive, or I don't know, magnetizing about like a strong animal. What does it do? What is it about? What is
Hmm.
this thing? Is it dangerous? Like, do I need to? And that's the way I presented myself when I was interviewing. I was happy to be there. Bro, I would crack open the laptop while they had me waiting in the lobby. I'm like, I'm coding. I'm
Yeah.
coding. I'm not sitting here doing nothing. What do you think? I'm on your time? Get out of here. Um, and so when
Oh
I talked
man.
about my own projects and stuff like that,
Yeah.
this was not, all right, try to get the right answer. This was literally me. I didn't fully understand this in the beginning,
Hmm.
but now I do. Interviewing is a two-way street. And
Absolutely.
I know that there's a need. Obviously, when you're looking for a job, you need one. I'm not denying that. But it truly is. Again, this is the game. I didn't make up the tech game. The tech game is just cush enough. And I say that with a small asterisk, but it's cush enough where you ought to be interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you.
Hmm.
And so I don't want to be at a company that's going to make me fit a mold, or just, I don't know, feel awkward or whatever. Like that's not going to be a good fit for either one of us. All right. You're not this overlord that I am begging to crank out a few rations so that I
Yeah.
can
Right.
please survive until
Hmm.
tomorrow. That's not the game. I looked around the field. That's not what I saw. And so I wasn't going to play the game that way. So my first job is at Accenture, right? I was making $76,000 a year. That was about 16,000, 17,000 more than I was making at the city. In the city, I was making, no. No, I'm sorry. Like maybe 11, 12. I think I was making like 64 at the time,
Okay.
64, 65. That was base pay. You could bump that up if you,
Overtime or something like that.
overtime. Yeah.
Hmm.
Do a specialist job. You get a little bit extra pay and all those hustles, which I
Sure.
did not like that game, but I loved the tech game. That game I wanted to play. The city game I don't want to play. All right, so I'm making 76.
And this is like 10 years ago,
Um,
right?
this is in 2015. Yeah,
Okay.
the
Yeah.
summer
About 20
of
years ago.
2015.
I mean, 10 years ago.
So
Yeah.
76.
Hmm.
Not bad. Hey,
Yeah.
listen, I'm
Yeah.
making more money, and I'm in. And I will tell the listeners, it is true that the hardest thing is to just get your foot in the door. So I'm not knocking that hustle. Like finding that first job is the most difficult thing to do. And so uh it should be a numbers game. It should be all of the above. Like just spray all your ammo everywhere you can. Like don't be as choosy. because you want to set yourself up to have a resume. You don't have a resume
right.
until like
Yeah.
you got something on it.
You got to
You
get
know,
validated somewhere. Someone's got to kind of stamp you and say, okay, cool. You're a real deal software engineer now.
right. And essentially anybody who hires a junior engineer is taking a risk.
Yeah. Big risk.
But that's not unique to like coding. Like any new employee who's beginning their work history is a risk. But that's just the world. And so it's not unique to coding. So please remember that, you know, this happens elsewhere as well. If anything, it's much
really
easier
good
here.
point. That's a super good point. Whether it's like sales or, I mean, business, think about like a new lawyer, a new doctor. I mean, these are high stakes professions.
That's what I'm saying. There's always a risk from on the employer side for hiring somebody who's new.
That's a really good point.
Is, you know, so nothing has changed. We're not talking about anything unique so far, you know?
Yeah, you're right.
So now that I have but once you have your foot in the door, now that I have my foot in the door, now you are the writer of your own novel. And you are much more responsible for the outcomes that you experience, right? You're not floating in a lazy river. I don't even like to think of that when you get to the quote unquote top of your career. Like, I don't like the idea of a lazy river.
Yeah, it's a dangerous thing to do. Also, I don't think there's a reality of doing that and having a viable career. Yeah,
yeah, there is none. There is none. But once you get your foot in the door, all right, now it's like game on.
Yeah.
How are we doing this? And so I'm looking around. Right. So I'm enjoying, you got people bringing their dogs to the office. I'm like, this is kind of cool. You could kind of wear whatever you want. Although Accenture, I was surrounded by a lot of people with like business suits.
Yeah. Right.
Oh yeah. But I was in like this small little oasis called, you know, the front end team. And we were kind of doing whatever, you know, and I was enjoying working for a big company. I had no idea, like the HR process, getting the new laptop, flying out to Chicago. Oh, training. The next one is up in Mexico for Angular training. Yes, please.
Yeah,
you know, getting a free trip to Mexico.
Yeah.
You know, and we actually timed that one. I think the next Angular training was like in Chicago or somewhere in the States. And so we fuddled to miss that deadline because we knew the next one would be in Mexico.
Yeah, right.
So I was like, oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, but when I looked around, it's not like, I think people are a lot more open with their salaries nowadays, and even companies, like those numbers weren't as public back then.
Yep.
So it's not like people spoke about their salaries a lot, but you know, you get to be friends with people and then you start to figure out like who's making this and who's making that.
Yeah.
And I came to find out there was one dude who I think he had like either a year and a half and he was making 98. So I'm like, ooh, wow. Now that's money. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, we basically had 100K. Woo, boy.
Yeah. Then you start to think what's possible. You say, oh, I didn't know that was possible. Oh,
right.
Yeah. Right.
So I took that as an inspiration. Other people took that as, well, why is he getting that much and I'm not? And I'm going to tell you the answer. You have not because you ask not. There is no other reason. It's really that simple.
It's sometimes.
I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
And this is where I started to see the game start to unfold. So I'm one of my good friends at that company, this girl, Catherine. She was super chill, you know, sitting on one of them big bouncy balls, bringing her little, I don't know, some little white poof looking dog, cute little dog to the office.
Sure.
That dog, everybody like had it on its lap, you know, the dog's just walking around and stuff. Like, so she was super chill. The type of girl who loved to just go traveling all the time. She was from LA, I think. And now she was living in New York and stuff like that. So I come to find out she's making 65K. She has a 4-year degree. And by the time I came on the job, she was there for almost a year.
Oh, wow.
And she's making and I'm making 76, 3 months of a boot camp and no college degree. None. I don't even have the 2-year degree. Like I told you, I didn't finish.
Yeah, yeah.
I did a couple semesters, but it's too busy rapping. And that I was puzzled at that. And so she wasn't happy about that either. And she was like, man, what's up with this company? Like, da 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 da.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, cool. So I had that in the back burner. We're coming up to the 1-year mark. I just had this itch. I know I can make a lot of money, and I don't think that they're gonna give me a big bump here. So I quickly realized, at least in the beginning, I'm going to give myself a raise, and it's either going to be with the company here or another company.
That's right.
But I'm giving myself a raise.
Yeah.
And sure enough, her review came, and I think they gave her like another 6 or 7K. I forget what it was. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, man. That, like, I'm not trying to be here for 20 years to get up to. I'm trying to get to some real money so I can get out of debt and live life.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of talk about like, looking around and stuff. And I noticed everybody's just flapping their gums. People are talking like they'll look for different jobs. And I'm like, I got no problem. Year came up. I was like, I'm out. I got a job with what was it? It was a startup.
Okay.
L2. It was called L2.
L2.
It was, I don't know if you ever heard of Professor Scott Galloway. He is a NYU professor at like one of their business schools. He's you could look him up. He's a pretty big deal.
Yeah,
he's been
I know
on
that name for sure.
So that was his company. And it was an analytics company, and they ended up getting bought out by Gartner and all of that stuff. Again, I have no idea who these players are, right? But I went from 76 to 98. Yeah, I hit the 98.
$22,000 jump
short of the 100K. Like this, like, yo, I make 6 figures now, bro. With 1 year, one year under my belt, and I am making I'm basically making 100K, and I'm beside myself. So I left and gave myself, what is that? A 76, 86, 90, $22,000 raise.
That's right.
And this girl stayed because she didn't want to take a risk, and she got a $6,000 raise. I did not make the game up. I didn't. Okay, so I'm like, this is good. This is going to further get me out of debt. Okay.
Yep.
Rinse and repeat. I stay at L2 for a year, and I like the company. Cool. Mm-hmm. To be fair, I do get bored easily. And I'm coming up on the year. Same thing. Rinse and repeat. Now I'm starting to even get more confident in my worth. And we're talking, and I remember them talking about like, oh yeah, a developer, like you're probably the max you could max out at is like 150 if you're like super elite and stuff like that. And to me, that was like crazy money. So I'm like, all right.
Yeah, right.
I went to another startup,
Uh-huh.
Transfix, one of my favorite jobs, 122. So I go from 76 to 98 to 122. I made an app about my own salary. Personal. It's I only run it on localhost, but I wanted to visualize the bumps in pay. Yeah, and I wanted to see my progress. And so now I'm at 122. And I'm feeling wild. And I'm in my 3rd year, but I only have 2 full years of experience behind me. Why? Because I negotiated that. Rinse and repeat till I got to Bloomberg. Bloomberg, I asked for 155 because I was hoping to land at like in the 140s.
Yeah, right.
And then I was like, if I could land in the 140s,
it's not that big of a jump for the next one. Yeah.
I'm gold. Like,
right.
And I ended up getting a job, and the lady said $170.
Oh.
I said, I literally did. I'm sorry. Say what? So what? She said 170 and paused. I almost fell over, dude. I ain't never heard of so much money in my life. I ain't never seen so much money. I never thought that I was going to be able or valuable enough. Like, what the frig are you talking about? I asked for 155 thinking like, I forced myself. I looked in the mirror. I said 155. Mm-hmm. Like I had to psychologically prep myself because I felt like
laugh me out of the room. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Because I'm like, I just don't want to take lower than 140. I'd be happy with one. Bro, they said 170. I said, say when. Say friggin' when.
I'll be there
So
tomorrow.
I figured that was it. Like, I'm good. I'm salary wise, I have peaked. And so I will just continue to ride this out. I will stay with Bloomberg. I had no more desire to jump and jump and jump.
And of course that didn't work out, right? Because as
It
soon as you
didn't
get
work
some
out,
number, you get another number in your head.
well, that is very true. I will say, and to maybe some of the listeners, like that might sound like more money than God. And to some other people, it's like, yeah, no, I've been there, done that, and I'm doing better than that. Fantastic, and God bless you. To some people, it is more money than God. We're not talking about how much money it is in relation to what you're used to. We're talking about how much money it is in relation to what the tech industry offers. That's all that matters. It has nothing to do with what you think you're worth or what you think they can pay. It just matters what they can pay. What are the market values? That's the only number that matters. What is the market value? If the market is willing to pay, then you need to figure out a way how to make them pay. Just make yourself payable. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
And that's easier said than done. I get
For
that.
sure.
But I moved on to Facebook, and the only reason why I did, and I know we're probably coming up on time and whatnot, but I would have stayed at Bloomberg. It was a sweet gig. It was a little weird because they had like that ancient terminal, the Bloomberg terminal. It's like this weird thing.
Never even heard of that.
Yeah, like their keyboards are all colored, and it looks like it's from 1985. It's literally like a terminal.
Interesting. Okay.
And I had apparently that's a big thing in like around the globe. I didn't know at the time, but like all businesses use this thing. This is how Bloomberg makes their money. They sell these terminals and all the data that comes along with it and blah, blah, blah. But anyway, I was working on web stuff, and they ended up getting rid of the project that I was working on 6 months into my time at Bloomberg. And so they didn't get rid of us, but because there was really nothing else bubbling at the company in the cliche like web stuff, it was all like that ancient Bloomberg terminal stuff. I really wasn't interested. And I'm like, damn it, I don't want to leave this. That's why I said, so if I have to leave, then frig that.
Then you have
I'm
to
going
go
for
to
the
next
jugular.
the big leagues at that point.
Yeah.
That's kind of your only option.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Like you climb to the top of Mount Everest and only to find out it's a volcano and it's about to blow. Well, I'm not losing what I worked for. Then I might as well shoot for the moon. Facebook, Amazon, Google, and I got Facebook, So I mean that was the journey. Those are some of the details of the journey.
That's crazy. And it's you have so many good points along this because a lot of it is this, I don't want to say like mental framework or mindset, because I feel like that's almost like a cliche thing, but it's true. The reality is you have to think a little differently, especially if you're coming from a non-traditional background. It's really interesting that your previous life like influenced how you went at these opportunities. But I wonder, like, what do you say to people that are coming from like, I'm a security guard, or, I'm a whatever, French fry chef. Yeah. What do they need to do to adopt a different mentality when it comes to coding and getting paid and presenting themselves as a software developer?
Yeah. Well, first, getting the mentality. Forget like trying to get into software, right? The mentality is no different than saying, I'm going to eat healthy today. I'm going to go to the gym today. There is nothing that you can do other than executing, right? In its rawest form. Now, there are things you can do to try to put yourself in the best position to have the highest likelihood to go execute. But at the end of the day, you either have to do something or not. And so for me, I'd rather do something than nothing. Okay, now what about tech specifically? The game has not changed. Sure, it might be difficult to get a job and everything else, but the game has not changed. And all this talk about AI and everything else is not taking anybody's coding job. It is an asset. It is not the overlords are not coming for developers. There are plenty of other jobs that AI can replace, but that's a whole separate topic.
For sure.
But the landscape of coding or software development is a huge open door. I wish I would have known this earlier. It is not an exclusive club. You do not have to be born a nerd or something like that. What the hell did I know? I was carrying around a radio on a bike. Like, come on. I was swinging hammers on rails in tunnels. Please. Like, I don't know what else you want, but it does take tenacity, and it does take an attitude to invest in yourself and hard work. It's not easy. I get that. I used to say anybody can code, and that was a little naive. I still believe that on paper. Like those words are true. Anybody can code, but not anybody will. That's like saying anybody could be a gym rat. Yeah, but not anybody will. Like you got to really go after that. Or anybody could learn to play piano. That's true, but not everybody's going to get past, the ABC, just the ABCs of playing keys. So it's the same with software development. However, the field is still ripe. It was just as competitive, you arguably more competitive back then because you didn't have a lot of tools to make yourself look as good as you can today. And so even though the competition is fierce, I will grant that. When did competition ever dictate whether you enroll or not? Like that is on the person. That's a personal value. Like just know that you're worth it if you really want something and if you're really willing to stick to it. Now I don't want to, at the risk of sounding like David Goggins, who is the man, by the way.
David Goggins. Shout out.
Yeah. Listening to his stuff just makes me, oh man, I need to get out the bed right now and just go do something,
Yeah, seriously.
But you can. And the field is still ripe for picking. Not everybody started. I didn't start at a Facebook. And looking back, I didn't realize that the decisions I was making would pay this type of return on investment. So I definitely feel blessed that it does. But again, please hear me. I did not do anything unique. I just didn't. If I did, I'd probably be even further along. You know what I'm saying? So it is available. And just because something is difficult doesn't mean you shouldn't try. I'm an avid advocate for boot camps and learning how to code. I'm living proof of it, and my family has benefited from it. And so I don't know what to say, but I love preaching that gospel. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because it works. It works if you can stick with it, and you need guidance. I had guidance along the way from certain people nudging me in this direction. Mm-hmm. Trial and error are also, schoolmasters. They can be a little brutal, but sure. But there's ways. Follow people. Like I saturated my LinkedIn, my Twitter timeline with developers. I wanted the right noise. Like there's things you can do, which is probably a whole nother lesson. But there's things you can do to at least not be shooting in the dark. Like at least shoot in the area of the target. Believe me, you're gonna hit something.
Wow. Aaron, this has been one of my favorite conversations I've had on this show.
This is cool, man. I'm glad we connected. And I look forward to,
glad. Yeah, I think I have to have you back on and talk about some other topics. Before I let you go though. Yeah, for sure. You got tons of wisdom, and just it's such a cool story. And also so much positivity. I think that's really missing nowadays, because if you go online, I went down the YouTube rabbit hole and I just typed in, I'm like, what are people looking up to code? I didn't find any coding videos. I found all the social media stuff around coding. Like, here's why getting a job's impossible. Here's why you shouldn't learn to code. Here's why cybersecurity is going to fail. And I'm like, is this what people are looking at all day long instead of learning how to do the actual thing? Yeah, it's social media's become the wild, wild west, because it wasn't like that 10 years ago. It was, you'd found tutorials, you found people that were generally helpful. Now it's so much noise out there. So hearing people like you that have a practical, realistic story that tell you no, here's how I did it and here's how it's benefited my life is super helpful to hear.
I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Any last words of advice for our listeners?
I guess I would say you never fail investing in yourself, and be as objective as you possibly can. Um, if anybody's looking to code or looking for just general life transitions and stuff like that, you need to be able to think about it properly. You need to be able to hear your own thoughts. And sometimes you just need to shut a lot of noise out, and give yourself the process of figuring stuff out. I know that's what I did. I've done that a number of times in my life. And specifically with code, I think it's worth it. Look into a boot camp. Look into learning how to code if that's where you're at, or if you're still struggling and whatnot. You can always switch up the game, but don't come out of that pool. This arena has too much to offer to get out of this pool prematurely and say it's not for me, because it wasn't for me. What does a kid who knows nothing but rapping and carrying a radio on a bike know? Like, was coding for me? So, hopefully it's an inspiration to folks to keep going.
Damn, it's like an inspiration to me, dude. Jeez. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's like we all have interesting stories. Some have more salacious, interesting stories than others. But there's not only room for everybody, but if you apply enough pressure to something, you're going to have some success in it. I fully believe that. Whether it's coding or learning how to be a doctor or a lawyer or whatever. It's like, with enough grit applied, you can reach that goal you want.
100%.
Are you online, and where can people find you? You got too much game and wisdom that you're dropping for now. Putting this online.
I'm trying to be online more. I haven't really. Twitter is more like a one-way street where I just kind of consume.
Okay.
But let's see if that changes in the future. But I guess folks can find me on LinkedIn. That would probably be the best way. And I'm more than happy to connect on LinkedIn and talk shop and stuff like that.
Great. I'll have your details linked in the bottom of this episode, and people can connect with you there. Yeah, you really should, because you got too many nuggets that we need out there. We need that voice out there. Well, thank you so much. Really appreciate you being on the show today.
All right, brother. Good talking. I'll talk to you soon, man.
For sure.
All right, later.
That'll do it for today's episode of the Develop Yourself podcast. To learn more about becoming a software engineer with us, then check out Parsity.io. If you're not quite ready for that, then jump into our Dev30.xyz program, which is 30 days of working on your mindset, habits, and JavaScript skills. Totally worth it. See you next week.